decided then instead of master's, I thought, okay, let me settle down on one place and then go for associate degrees, because I can complete what I want, and maybe once I get into the job, then I can pursue my master's. So I did my associate degree in like Dallas Community College in software development, and I got a diploma there along with that. And I was looking for a job, and I'm from new industry, no experience, nothing there. It was hard to get a job there without. So fortunately, when the local ads, I found a startup company. He was just starting it, and he was posted a small project there. This is what I'm looking for. I want to solve this, and he wanted to build an e-commerce website. And then I said, okay, let me work for you for free. I'm not asking for money. I need experience. You need help. So let me work for you. And that helped me a lot. And since I built, I worked on a little bit on HTML, CSS, and all those things, put together a website for him. And then on the backend work, I did connected to the databases with all my Java skill set that I learned during my college. I used that, and yeah, for almost 1 year, I worked for him. And now the company has become pretty big. Now it's called IBSoft. But with all the moving, I moved out of Dallas, and pursued. That gave me some confidence to jump into the industry and approach other companies. And that's how I started my job here. And I would encourage to do the same. If you're finding hard to gain initial experience, you can reach out to someone or your connections that who can give you an opportunity to work on small projects, so gets your hand dirty and get some experience there and put a name on your resume. Yeah.
Thank you. Great story. Tammy?
So my first tech job was actually customer support. And it was for transportation industry, actually walking people through how to use an application and how to file things. And it gets a bit frustrating when you are working all the time and you're speaking with people that know absolutely nothing about computers. It's very challenging, but it's very frustrating. So while in that position, I came across a business analyst position in the same company and had never heard of this job before, and thought, that's pretty cool. I get to, I'll get to be in between both worlds. I know a little technology and my client skills are very good. So I get to be in the middle. I get to kind of be a translator. So in order to make that happen, I went and got some certifications. I got my A+ certification. I got a networking certification. I got a security certification, and I found an incredible mentor. And one of the things my mentor told me was that certifications just prove that you're trainable. And he was absolutely right. But yeah, and at home, I'd always had an interest in technology and, had built computers and things like that. So no matter what your background is, you can get there. Mine is very non-traditional, as I mentioned before. I've been in the military. I have been a special education teacher's assistant. I have done taxes. I have worked in every industry, but the bottom line was I got bored easily. So technology was a great fit for me because I was kind of bouncing around trying to figure out who I am. And you don't ever get bored in a tech job. There's always something new to learn. There's always something new to do. But definitely those certifications and my mentor helped me get into that first business analyst role.
want to add in any specific tools that you might have been using in the past to get jobs or more recently? Have you been successful with recruiters like Cammie, or is it more people you know that have helped bring you in? That question can go to any of our panelists.
For myself, when I got the job at Terazo, it was through a recruiter reaching out to me. But I, like I said, for my first job, it was getting those connections kind of like through a network that I had available to me through a boot camp that I was in. So, LinkedIn is certainly an important part of any job search. You want to have that filled out. That's who you are to any job that you're applying to. And I think that maybe recruiters, and Cammie, you can totally correct me on this. I think maybe recruiters are more helpful with after you have your first job, like with further jobs, second job, third job. But yeah. Please add stuff, Cammie, to that.
That's
Well,
a great segue.
That's been my experience, but
yeah, I think I'm going next on this, so I'll
Yeah.
put a pin in that for the next.
Okay. Okay. To be continued.
So consulting groups are a great way to get started as well, because they usually have positions at every different level. How I got my job at Terazo initially was an internal referral. A good friend of mine works at Terazo as well, but definitely, be open to the contractor positions and things like that when you're first starting, because it can let you pick up additional skill sets and, it pads your resume so people can see, hey, they've done this and this and this.
Yeah, I got Terazo job through recruiter too. So I would say recruiter, and I got one job from one of my references, but one of my colleagues referred, and that's how I got one of my jobs. But mostly I have tried via the LinkedIn, or applying to LinkedIn or Indeed. And before it, there used to be monster.com that used to be there before, not anymore, not as popular anymore now. So I would say for now, LinkedIn is probably the main connection, I guess.
I will add just a little thing real quick, if that's all right. I've been to someone who's like I forget what it's called now. Someone who helps you write your resume. That was really helpful for me, because like I'm someone who doesn't always, it's hard to put yourself out there. Like on a resume, you got to really brag. And it's nice to be able to get together with somebody and tell them about yourself, and then they write it and they brag about you for you. So that can be a helpful thing. Sometimes some of those like resume writers will give you a discount if you're like a first time, if you're first getting into tech. So that can be maybe a helpful thing to keep in your pocket.
Yeah, and Shelly, to that point, I also think taking advantage of recruiters in that situation is great. That's a service that they'll offer to help with as well. So another free avenue there.
Well, I think that's an awesome segue into another question. Cammie, this one is for you. So as a recruiter for the tech positions, what advice would you give to someone that is looking for their first job?
Yeah, I think starting out, we've all mentioned here, coming from different backgrounds. So I think people that may be coming from a traditional background, graduating with a degree, definitely use your college career fairs, your career services. That network is really extensive. If you did a boot camp, like Shelly had mentioned, she did exactly the same thing that you do really if you were going through a college career services. Like the career services department of boot camps is phenomenal, specifically the like bigger, more reputable ones. So I'd really look into what services boot camps offer beyond just like the tech learning itself, because the extension that you can get after graduation there provides a ton of value. If they have someone that's a dedicated resource to partnering with you to help you connect with companies that may have a history of hiring out of that specific boot camp. Like that's a huge leg up in the job hunting world. And then Tammy mentioned this, getting certifications. That is helpful on multiple levels. Like she said, it shows that you're trainable, but it also helps you join professional groups so you can continue networking from there. And like, oh shoot, someone mentioned like, oh, Shelly, I think like LinkedIn is who you are to an employer. It lists, you can put it on your LinkedIn. So if someone's searching for maybe like a certified Scrum Master, you've got that acronym behind your name, that brings your page up on a search results list. And, that adds a lot of value there, or it gets a conversation started. Got to be proactive. If you're, trying to figure out what company do I want to work for, I encourage you to look at products, like see what gets you interested, what industry, what type of products, what type of technology do you want to work with, do a lot of research on that, use LinkedIn for that, use, company websites, look at their news reviews and do product demos, see if it's something that makes you excited. And then if you do find something you're interested in, reach out to people that work there, message a manager, message a developer, someone that you want to be in, 2 or 5 years, message the recruiter and send a personalized message saying like, hey, I went out and found this and I'm super interested. And here's why I would be someone that would be great to work here. That goes a long way. Most people are just applying to jobs through like LinkedIn Easy Apply or Indeed, or just something that is drop in the bucket with 100 other people. It's those personalized, proactive things that really make you stand out when you're searching. Network. What you're doing right now is exactly what you should be doing. Go to Women Who Code events, and we are all virtual, so you don't have to just come to Richmond. Like go attend other cities or other countries' events and learn about what's going on there. Women Who Code has a great connection for job boards, and if you're job searching, look there. And look outside of Women Who Code too. And when you find something you're interested in, like if Terazo is something you're interested in after this, reach out to someone here and say that you would love to learn more about what your company does and connect with people on LinkedIn. We mentioned recruiters. There are 2 different types to work with. One is an internal recruiter that works for a company like Terazo, and then one's an agency recruiter that works for a staffing company. Both have their own unique value. The internal recruiter will be able to give you the ins and outs of that one company and all the positions that are there. And an agency recruiter sees multiple different jobs with a bunch of different companies and can be more on like the marketing side of showing you off to prospective employers. But definitely use recruiters. Like I mentioned when Shelly was talking about resume writing, interview prep, connections, networking. There's just so much value you can get out of that. So reach out to people. Brooke had posted a few great recruiters on LinkedIn that she's worked with. So I'll grab that and put it back in the chat to give those people a shout out again. Ask people who, like Shelly mentioned and Archana mentioned, ask who they worked with. Referrals go a long way. There's some really great recruiters out there that have wonderful networks, and those are the people you want to be with. And then lastly, we've said it multiple times, LinkedIn, like that is just the way of the world these days. So make sure you're looking for it. Turn open to work on if you are looking for a job, that there's a recruiter function that operates as a job board, essentially, where you can search people that are on LinkedIn to fill a job opening. And it is much more likely that you'll be targeted if you have your open to work on. So definitely put that there. And like I mentioned earlier, when you're applying to jobs on LinkedIn, follow up with a personalized message to someone at that company or the hiring manager or the person that's posted the job on LinkedIn, letting them know that you've applied and help make yourself stand out.
That is great advice. Miss Brooke is in the dark again. Saving the environment, saving electricity. All right. So I'm going to point this question to Shelly and Cammie. You both can weigh in on this as well. But what things are important to look for in a workplace, and what are warning signs to look out for? So what are those red flags? It's a 2-part question. What are the positives you're looking for, and what are some of the warnings that we want to let people know they should watch out for?
Cammie, do you want to lead us out since you were just talking about some of this?
Yeah, sure. I think important things to look for, especially if you're starting off your career in tech, are opportunities for mentorship, for growth, I would be sure to ask people during interviews or to look at companies about us pages when you're applying for jobs to see, people that have been promoted in the company. Make sure that there's a path for you there. Learn about who is there to train you, who you'll be working with, what resources they provide you. Are you getting certifications? Is the company a place that is active in learning new things and, gets together and does certifications together, does trainings? Like, those things are so important on multiple levels for your personal development, but it also shows that the company has a really great culture of learning and growth and development, and that they're going to invest in you for your future. I think also finding places that have employee resource groups. We're a part of one at Women in Terazo. That is really phenomenal because it shows both the companies and the employees are invested in the well-being and growth there. Warning signs, I would say places that don't do those things, but also places where you don't see diversity when you're interviewing. I think it's important that companies are showing you that throughout your courtship with them, if you will. And I think another thing that would be a warning sign is if you're looking maybe at LinkedIn, you can see all the people that work at a company. If maybe they have a average of a 1 or 2 year tenure, it may be a place that churns and burns employees. I'd be mindful of that too. So I do some research on the back end about, the people that work at that company and what the longevity of their time there looks like. Shelly.
Yeah. I think, something for myself that's really important to me is making sure there's a good work-life balance at a company that I look at. So, getting a sense for, and I think it's all right to ask about what is the work-life balance, especially, once you're a little ways into the interview process, you can, kind of suss that out. And, I would be looking at, what are the expectations for working overtime or working weekends? And, are there flexible hours? That might be something that, maybe you could ask if you could speak with someone who works on the team that you would be joining. If you're applying for an engineer position, can you speak with an engineer who works there? And maybe you could ask them some of those questions about, like, are there flexible hours if you need to take an appointment during the day, a medical appointment or something like that? So what is the support for that kind of thing, for that work-life balance? And I mean, I definitely, what Cammie said, kind of warning signs of, like, what is the turnover at this company? You can see, how many years do people stay there on average? It's a little harder to draw inferences when it's like a startup or it hasn't been around for too long. But if you have in your professional network people who know something about that company, maybe you could ask, you could look into what is the local reputation of that company. Do you know anybody who knows about that company? And try and figure that out. And then just something that I ask when I'm thinking about, do I want to work either, if I'm looking at joining a team that's at the company that I already am at, or if I'm, joining a new workplace, are these people that I want to be like? Because you're going to be with these people day in and out. You're going to influence them. They're going to influence you. Are these people that you want to be like? Do you respect and admire them and kind of want to spend your time with them? So, the interview process, I mean, I think that one of the really good pieces of advice that I got when I was, earlier in my tech career was, they're not just interviewing you, you're interviewing them as well. You're trying to figure out if this is the right fit for you. So yeah.
Great. Archana, do you have any things that you'd be looking for or any red flags?
I think Shelly and Tammy has covered everything. I definitely looking for a diversity. I would say it's pretty important, and the culture and the values that the company support. That's helpful, and it's helpful in several ways. It can build up your connections and so those are the things I would look for when I look for a job here.
If I could circle back, because Archana made me think of it, but that thing of diversity in, in the interview panel, that kind of thing. I mean, when I interviewed at Terazo, I think Archana, that you were in my interview panel, and I was like, okay, this is a place that has diversity, and because you were someone who was in the kind of role that I wanted to be in and had been here for a long time, it was like, okay, there's someone in that kind of vertical who does what I do, who is a woman. And I think that that's kind of important too, because it's not just that there's diversity at the company, it's that there's diversity in the engineers and technical field, because frequently you'll have women in roles that are more the human resources kind of things. But it is important. I mean, the first job that I was in, there was, that pretty clear delineation. It was all men in back-end development and like all women in human resources. And in the UI area, it was sort of mixed, but it wasn't, and it was not a good workplace. So so that's something that I look for, is having women in higher up roles, having women in engineering, like those particular things about diversity.
I think it's really important to research the company before you go in for your interview, not just to give you some insight on, what the company does and all, but there's sites like Glassdoor where employees can actually go and put reviews of the place they work, and it's 100% anonymous. So that's another good place to look.
I love that suggestion. That's a good one. I was going to put in too, just to piggyback off, because I can't help myself. But I love that in the field and on the employee level, things appear to be getting more diverse in our industry. But I'd also challenge folks, this might be an unpopular opinion, but look at the leadership of the company as well. Because if the leadership is not diverse, that's not a glaring red flag, but you have the right to ask them what they are doing to continue to promote diversity and inclusion, and that there is a path and there's representation on that leadership level as well. So that's just another thing I like to look for. But we're going to go into our next question, which just gets a little bit more deeper into the individual experience and what were things like when you all first started out? What are some of the challenges that you did face, that you feel that you faced as a woman in tech, or as someone coming from a non-traditional background? It's a two-part question, so we'll kind of start there, but feel free to inlay some advice that you would give folks that you might face similar challenges also. Shelly,
I can start.
You can start with that. Okay, great.
That's fine. So as I mentioned, I came from a non-traditional background with bachelor's in agriculture sciences, and it was not an easy change for me, and also coming to a new country, and English was not my first language. And I had written English skills, but the speaking was not as fluent as I was supposed to be here, which I kind of improved over the years. And with all these limitations that you have, and getting a job, it's not an easy, that you have to put a lot of effort to train yourself. And it's not only technical skills that you need to develop, it's also your soft skills that, as I mentioned, it's how you talk and how you express what you have learned, and how you share your experience. Those are all pretty important, and it was a big challenge for me because of my personality is on shy and reserved person from childhood. And that was a major hindrance for me initially. That's how the major challenge I had. And as I gained more experience in the industry after getting my first job, as I mentioned before, each year I kind of learned and started, the more you know about what you work on, I started gaining confidence there. And that helps you push yourself to the next level. And that's how you keep moving from one level to another level. And also, as I mentioned, and as you might have seen lately, women are increasing. You can see more women in tech industry now. When I joined, I think for me, my first 10 years, I never had a female colleague. Everybody used to be males. And being a shy-natured person, I was hesitant to ask or mingle with them. And those were the challenges that I had to face. And after the years, you get along and you know the people. I take some time to understand, know a person before I start discussing anything related to the work and everything. So my nature is that way. So probably, I don't know, many of you are bolder than me, and you can approach quite easily than me. But I believe some women are like me who are shy. So I would encourage you to not to be scared or not to be shy to ask a question when you need help or when you need any help with your work. I'm pretty sure your team members or anyone in your company are definitely, they're going to come forward and help you out there. Yeah, this is a challenge I faced, and probably it could help someone there in the future.
I'll go next. So my first job in tech, I only had it for a short time, about 2 or 3 months, and then I had to move on. It was not a good work situation for a lot of different reasons. And before I went into tech, I actually, when I was studying sociology, I studied like discrimination in the workplace and how it kind of works. And often things layer. So it's not just sexism, it's also racism. And, often there's a pretty unhealthy workplace culture that goes along with it. In tech, there's often this, culture of the grind, just kind of work. So this first place that I was in, it was a regular thing for the manager to come in, and when things weren't going well, he would yell at the development team. The developers would be working like 60-hour weeks to try and accommodate this person. And it was, like I said, the development team, it was all men except for myself. And it was in these cubicles. I would, the cubicle over from me would be talking about the women that they had dated and be ranking them 1 to 10 on how pretty they were. And, it was just all around not a good place. And it was not good for the men who were there either. Before I left, I opened up to a couple of them that I felt better about. And they said that they were having anxiety all the time as well. And there was one engineer who kind of, there was, during a particularly stressful time, he was like having a medical issue where he was having ulcers from the stress. And so it was just, there are workplaces like that are just not very healthy, and they tend to not be very healthy for all the people. But if you're, a woman in a culture like that, or, a racial minority, it can be extra difficult. And, I went to my manager and talked to them. This was a different person than the one who would yell at us. I went to HR and talked to them, but it was a situation where I just needed to move on ultimately. And my network was able to help me make connections with a better workplace. So, there are places like that, but I just want to encourage you all that like tech does not equal toxicity. Like there are good people and there are good places in tech that are going to be supportive and encourage you and promote your professional development and just be good for your work-life balance. Like there's better places out there. So if you get yourself into that kind of situation, don't feel obligated to stay. I was only at that workplace for 3 months, but by the time that I left, I was having like such severe depression that I was like having memory problems, and I even was having suicidal ideation. So you don't, I really don't want for anyone here to get to that point before you leave a place. So that's kind of like a really bad experience. But on the other hand, the places I've been since then, for a much longer time period, have been really positive, where the management has been encouraging us to take time off if we need it for our health or for our mental health. Take a mental health day, take the time that you need for medical appointments, 9 to 5, don't be working lots of extra hours. And it's sort of like a team effort that you encourage each other, and keep each other accountable to that. So that's kind of when I think about coming into tech as a woman, that's kind of the experience that I've had. And just the long and the short of it is there's good places out there. Sometimes you might get stuck with a place that's not great, but that's part of why you want to ask those questions, to try and like identify, is this going to be a supportive workplace? Can I talk to engineers and get a sense for what this workplace is going to be like? And are they going to have work-life balance? Those sorts of questions become particularly important to making sure that you're able to do your best work and be your best self.
So I'll go next. Talking more as somebody coming from a non-traditional background, I would say do not allow yourself to be dismissed. People like to talk over you, or they're like, you've only been doing this for several months. There's also a lot of you're just on the business side. And you have to make sure that people know who you are, that you're not going to just step away and they're not going to treat you like a child. You really do need to assert yourself. I think that was probably the biggest challenge I faced, is, with people saying, oh, well, you don't know what you're talking about. Another thing that I learned being in a role in between tech and business is that sometimes team members would try to dismiss me as, oh, we're having a technical meeting, you don't need to be there. And so every time I start a new project, the first thing I tell the team, whether it's a team I've worked with before or not, is I'm like, I don't care if it's just a technical meeting. If we're all getting together, you need to put me as optional. And if I can make the meeting, I will. That's a great way to learn, especially if you don't have strong tech skills. I know that listening and kind of absorbing things is a really good way to add to your skill set. Just don't be a pushover.
Yeah. Love that. Find your voice. Thank you, Tammy. You were mentioning about being an engagement lead right now. So, you work closely with the clients, engineers, and the stakeholders. Do you have any specific advice for someone new to the field about working well in a tech team, especially if they're not going to take that, typical approach through boot camps or, IT degrees?
The biggest advice I can give is probably to be yourself. You are allowed to have a personality. You are allowed to have a voice. And a lot of times in job interviews, when it comes down to we get down to panel interviews for people that have made it through the recruitment phase, a lot of times the decision to who gets that job depends on how well they vibe with the team. So absolutely be yourself. Sometimes engineers, developers can have an artistic complex. So patience is a good skill to have as well. Shelly talks about her background in sociology, and it's probably a good background to have. But just general teamwork. And like I said before, stand up for yourself. If you don't understand something, ask questions. If you have an issue with someone, talk about it. And I know that is not always an easy discussion to have, but it's easier to have that discussion when you're first starting on a team than 3 months down the road. So yeah, that's me.
Do another question. Shelly or Tammy, you guys feel free to respond to this one, but what excited you most when you first started working in tech? And what would you share with others that they can look forward to in this field?
I was excited about the continuous learning aspect. If you're not in a place that does not encourage learning, then you're in the wrong place. You should be in a place that allows you to grow and, allows you to explore other roles. I just really get excited with learning something new. So that was like my huge thing. So, I wanted to learn SQL, I learned CSS, I learned HTML, and, basically my goal is to learn enough to know that developers like Shelly and Archana can't BS me. So yeah, just the continuous learning, and you meet a lot of great people, people from all different walks of life. My background was, I had a bachelor's in human resources, and to further my career, I went and got a master's in information systems and database administration. So even if you're looking at the business side and you don't want something that is extremely technical, find something that is a little bit more on that side that can just help you get your feet wet and, maybe relate to the people that are more technical.
So I'm a software engineer and I'm the person Tammy's got her eye out for, making sure I'm not BSing. When I started out, it just felt like I was playing games for a job. Like I like little logic puzzles. I like puzzling, and that's what coding is. And then, another thing, I already mentioned this, that's really rewarding for me is that I get to build things and see the impact of those things on real people. So that's really exciting to get to see kind of the impact of the work that you're doing. And, I think as I've gotten more experienced and gotten further into the field, my focus has, I've gotten more of a focus on big picture stuff. So I've had opportunities, during the course of things to kind of dabble in product ownership stuff, to help facilitate group stuff, and to think about, the big picture of how we solve problems for the diversity of people that we have as users. And so those sort of like process improvement activities are exciting for me, and thinking big picture about how we build products for people. And also because of like my background before getting in tech, I was studying sociology. So I was doing interviews and surveys and trying to synthesize and interpret people's responses, their beliefs, their values. And it's at this point, it's really exciting for me to be getting to a place where I have that, stronger technical foundation. And I can really start the work of kind of putting together these pieces of myself, these pieces of my background into, a cohesive whole, putting together my experience and research about people and programs with this new field in tech, where we're trying to understand people so we can build really good technical tools that serve them well. So that's pretty cool. I think that I'll just be frank here. I think that something that has really benefited me is just like soft skills, people skills. and this is something that probably women tend more to have than men on average. You know, it's something that will, you know, probably help you stand out. And, you know, I've heard from folks things like, you know, you've got the soft skills, and, you know, that part can't be taught. You know, you can learn the technical stuff, but the soft skills can't be taught. I disagree with that. You can get better at the soft skills, but also, you know, if you come to it with some of those, and especially if you're transitioning from another field that tended to have more people work to it, you're coming with something that beyond just the technical skills is going to contribute to your success in tech as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, one other thing I want to mention is company's mission statement. So one of the tenets for Terazo where we work is to do meaningful work. So I think that we are truly lucky in that we get to do a lot of meaningful work. One of my clients that I work with helps the elderly. This job has allowed me to develop the skills to do volunteer work outside, you know, business hours. So the Wake County mental health branch that's here, I actually help them set up their Salesforce integration. So it's really cool to know too that, hey, I can take these skills and I can help somebody else. I can pay it forward. And I think that's important to the people that we work with most of all, and to the leadership in our company, is finding that meaningful work.
Archana, anything else you wanted to add?
For me, as Shelly mentioned, I like solving puzzles. For me, problem solving is that what attracts me in this area. And and also the main thing with the software industry is that it's changing so fast, you never get bored. So you have to keep learning new things. And I believe consulting is one of the place where you get to learn the latest technologies, and you can explore new technical skills there. And that's what I got after joining Terazo here. Worked in a financial industry for 5 years previously, and I had to compromise that job. I stayed in that job to have a work-life balance. My kids were very little that time. I did not put much effort in there. So, but as my kids started going to school, and they said, okay, this is right time for me to jump, and Terazo is a great place for me, where I kind of learned so many new skills in the past 3 years, and definitely encourage everyone who is looking for new jobs. Just keep learning and don't give up. And any new skill added to your resume is a good thing.
If I can just piggyback on that too. I think something that's really cool about tech is that it doesn't have as much of that hierarchical like style of knowledge where it's like the senior person knows all things and you can't disagree with them, and you know you just have to follow along like a little peon. You know, it's more a collaborative style of knowledge creation. You know, in tech there's always so much, no one knows everything, there's so much to learn. You know, you may learn something that, you know, some senior on your team doesn't have exposure to, and there just tends to be this collaborative kind of thing where more seniors, more senior engineers or more senior people in the field are looking for you to actually have input. That's a good thing. Yeah, and that's an exciting thing.
Right. I think we're going to wrap it up with one last question. This one's directed more towards Cammie, as well as Archana. Just with as many tech jobs as there are today, you know, being remote and or hybrid, what advice would you have for somebody that's about finding remote work and thriving in the remote work environment in particular?
Cammie, go ahead.
Okay. Well, yeah, so I'm gonna jump first on the hybrid part that you said, because I think, especially if you're looking to get your start in tech, it's great to be able to have a place where you can go in and get like face-to-face, in-person mentorship, but COVID really changed the ability for that to work in the remote world. Most companies weren't set up to have such inclusive meetings virtually before 2020, and now that's possible. So I think that it is awesome that people that are getting their start can be in Richmond, but work for a company in California easily and learn and grow and develop their skills. That, that wasn't a really easy, feasible option previously. There's some job boards I'd recommend specifically for women in technology that are looking. There's Tech Ladies, Diversify Tech, and Remote Women. And I'll put this in the chat at the end to share some of those sites, but they all have job boards. Tech Ladies is a great resource. They have webinars too on this exact topic. So I would encourage you to check that out. And then like I said earlier, keep doing this, conferences, webinars, all of these things that used to happen in person now can be accessed virtually. So take advantage of that. There's another group in Richmond that is a little bit more on the creative technology side to Women Who Code, called Creative Mornings. And that's a phenomenal group to check out too. They have a presence in Richmond, but they're a global networking group as well. And they also have a job board, and you can put that you're a job seeker, and recruiters and companies search the list of people that are on that site. So look into resources like Women Who Code, Creative Mornings. Those networking groups will also have ways for you to find the remote opportunities through companies that you haven't heard of. Archana.
Yeah. I'm going to speak a little bit from the engineer perspective on the remote or a hybrid job. It is challenging to work remotely, and here as an engineer or a software developer, to work remotely, communication is the key. You need to communicate with the team members or with the stakeholders it has to be continuous. You have to have a good communications that there are several ways to communicate. You can have Slack or so many messengers you have there, or email, and of course the Zoom calls. So when you have convey some message, you can use all these tools to for the communications. And for people who are just starting out looking for a job, I would encourage to look for hybrid or in person. To start with, if a remote is the only option, you're okay with that. But there are so many things that you can learn in a hybrid and in-person option there. It's not only the technical skills you can improve, as well as you can improve your interpersonal skills, the soft skills that Shelly was mentioning there. Shelly, it's not easy to get learn soft skills easily like you do, but some people, it's definitely the hybrid and on-site jobs can definitely, in-person jobs can definitely help when improving your soft skills. Remote, as well as it's challenging when you're working in a remotely. The other negative is that it's just that you need to learn where you draw your line from your professional work to your personal life, that you need to make sure you draw the line at correct time so that you can balance your work as well as home life together.
Tammy or Shelly, anything else you wanted to add about your experience remote?
Yeah. So for me, I looked for remote work. That's why I got the job at Terazo, or why applied for it is because I was looking for remote work. I had, our company that I was at before, SMC3, had gone remote for the pandemic, and I had found it, because of my particular situation, it was a lot easier to manage my health concerns working from home. So a commute can be very difficult if you have a chronic health condition. It's just like extra energy spent during your day. And I could manage, my food better. I could be cooking at home. I could be working from the couch if I was having a lot of pain that day. Just a variety of things that remote work made easier. I will completely agree with Archana that like the key to success in a remote environment is communication. You really have to be proactive about staying connected with your team and with the people that you work with and with your stakeholders. That communication piece is really key. And I mean, I myself started out in an in-person work situation at the first couple places that I worked. So I know that can be a helpful thing to be able to connect to some of your peers, for better or worse. But for better, ideally, you're learning from people, and it provides you with sort of like that in-person thing. There's things that you get through being collectively in person with people that really is helpful. Yeah.
Thank you so much. We're doing pretty great on time, ladies. That's awesome. So I think we're about to open it up to more of just a general Q&A. I see some folks have started putting questions in the chat, which is wonderful. So we will start looking through those, but feel free, those that might have been holding for questions, raise a hand if you want to speak it directly, or go ahead and put it in the chat and we'll start going through some of those.
Sorry, my computer was being weird. I know there was a question from Sucheta in the chat, and I can't find it right now, but Sucheta, you're more than welcome to come off mute, or someone find it and repeat it for me, but I can't scroll up right now.
Yeah, no worries. I think I found it. I think it was just mentioned. Go ahead.
So yeah, my question is, let me introduce myself first. So I'm Sucheta from Glen Allen, Virginia, and I'm like fairly new to the tech world. So I used to work as an office administrative previously, and then I decided to change career and exploring little bit into the software development part I got interested in, and then I started doing some research and doing some self-studies. Actually, I didn't attend any boot camps, and now I'm trying to connect with possible recruiters and trying to get more networks over LinkedIn. I had a question that is, I am doing a filter search for jobs and looking for entry-level front-end developer positions, but I don't get too many replies. Is there a certain way I should approach the recruiters, or do you have any suggestions for me for someone who is absolutely a fresher with no traditional background?
Yeah, I'll jump in on this to start if that's okay. But I would suggest looking at Upwork. I think it was Archana that mentioned that she had done some work on the side before she got like her first full-time paid job, and Upwork gives you an opportunity to do project-based work. And so that's a great way to build a portfolio of examples of things that you've built. That's it. That we know we don't think we've mentioned that enough during this, but having a GitHub and a portfolio, those things are really important in the job application process, because you can show your value and demonstrate what you've accomplished in the past. So if you go on Upwork and take a couple projects, that will be good, just like from a learning perspective if you're entry level, but it also will help you build a showcase of what you're capable of doing for future employers.
Got you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And I would keep reaching out to recruiters. I think great, if you're applying on LinkedIn a lot, I'd go look at some staffing agency recruiters. That gives you an entire different purview of what's out there in the market. Most of what they work on is not posted on LinkedIn. So, there's a second set of eyes out there for you in that world. And I'll message you over a couple recommendations I have.
Sure, Cammie. Thank you.
Yeah.
It looks like Maria had a question. Will the topic of finding a mentor be discussed tonight? If anyone wants to speak to that.
Yeah, I can speak to that. Basically, there are people on LinkedIn that has that listed as, mentorships available and things like that. That's one place you can look. Another place is within your own company. If there's somebody that is willing to take the time and, sit down with you once a week or, once every couple weeks to just give you some advice. I would encourage you to know, going into finding a mentor, try to know what your goals are as far as your career path is. And that will allow you to find a better suited mentor for you.
If you don't mind me adding to the question, I'm a career switcher. And so I'm currently a math teacher. And so there isn't anybody directly working with me that I can approach. So if I heard you correctly, one of the best bets would be looking at LinkedIn.
Yeah. There's people on there that do mentorships. You can hit me up on LinkedIn. Happy to give you my little pearls of wisdom. I was 32 when I switched over to a technology job, and I've been in it for 15 years now. So more than happy to help somebody coming from the education field and wanting to get into tech.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Tammy, I've seen so many people coming out of education into tech recently. And I actually made a LinkedIn post a couple weeks ago. If there was anyone that had made that transition that was open to chatting with people, if they could raise their hand essentially. So I have a list of people that are open to talking about how they made that change. I missed who asked this question. Who was it? I'll send you that information to look at.
Maria Cuellar.
Maria. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll send that over to you.
Yeah, I was also I wrote your name down as well. I used to work at a fintech, and we hired a lot of folks that did University of Richmond's boot camp. And I know 3 teachers, former teachers in particular, that are now active in tech roles. And they're probably 3 years into their careers, and they are actually actively looking for people to mentor. So I think 2 of them are members of Women Who Code also. So as more, events kick up, that's always a great way to just keep throwing your name out there and give your background. And but I can give you 2 names in particular that I think would be great for you to talk to.
Thank you, Maria. It looks like Katie had a question. I don't know if anyone answered it because everything's moving very slow on my computer right now, but it looks like, I don't know if someone answered it, but Katie asked a question about what's the best way to showcase your transferable skills when you're coming from a non-technical background.
I think, like Shelly mentioned earlier, highlight your soft skills. Those are important no matter what job role that you're looking at. Tech tends to have a lot of introverted type people. So communication skills, highlight those. Those things translate well.
So I'll say, for myself, I mentioned, I was familiar with doing interviews and surveys. I haven't gotten a chance to do a whole lot of that in the field yet, but presentations. I mean, I did academic presentations when I, before times, and did some teaching, and being able to present is a very nice skill to have, because, you're going to do sprint reviews, you're going to need to present your work and explain it. That's an important thing, to be able to explain it, not just to a technical audience, but to, stakeholders who are going to be less technical or just interested more in the big picture of, what does this thing do, or what is its impact? So those communication skills can be really good.
Is it
You know,
okay
it-
if I unmute?
Oh, yes.
Oh, I'm KT. I'm
Sorry.
sorry. I was the one asking the question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I come from a tax law and finance background.
Mhm.
I actually right now I do a lot of training. I train tax analysts and other instructors because they didn't know how to use the virtual programs and things like that. And so when I say a non-technical background, I really mean like software, like from the very, because I program in COBOL because the government uses very old systems. And so what I had to go into is learn, more modern languages because we've been doing everything in COBOL in the scene. So I could talk about those things, but they don't really translate the same. And so I guess I'm just trying to figure out the best way to make those connections. Because like you said, I'm used to presenting information and things like that. I think I'm just kind of looking for a thread.
Yeah.
I'd suggest there are companies that develop software for like learning management systems and stuff. I think that would be a really interesting type of industry to target. That sounds like it could relay a lot of what you've been doing in your current job and your past career into the tech space and doing a technical job there. So that may be something to look at too.
Thank you. I'll write that down. Thank you. Thanks for answering my question.
No problem. I'm trying to keep track of these questions. There's I see Daniela had a question. I have a non-technical background, recently started the Google Coursera data analyst course. Would you guys say that's a good resource to start?
Anything that's going to teach you something new is going to be helpful. I know as a company with Terazo, we are offered Udemy, however you say it. We're offered those courses to explore and, look at progressing our skill sets, or maybe there's something new you want to look at. So I would encourage anybody, if it's education, if it's learning something new, that is not going to hurt you.
Yeah. And there are several, sorry, Tammy, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're fine. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, there are several YouTubes also, like where you can watch and learn and work with them. Like, so that's another tool that you can use apart from Coursera and Udemy. And of course, if you have LinkedIn membership, they have technical trainings that they have, they offer. You could make use of that too.
And make sure you list those courses on your resume too.
Yes.
If you don't necessarily have the work experience, put down that you took those courses.
And I see one last question in the chat. Uh-oh, I lost it. Someone said I think they have an IT associates. They hadn't had an opportunity to find an IT job yet. What advice for a company where I can get some technical experience? I think that was Felicity.
Yeah, and Felicity, I know Kimberly Pollard had put this in the chat, but I think Career Prospectors is a great one to look at. That would be a good networking group to join. And I direct you towards recruiters. There are a lot of entry-level positions out there that recruiters do work on. So I think that would be a valuable resource. And check out Upwork as well and see if there's any freelance projects that you can do to build up your portfolio and repertoire in the meantime while you're job hunting.
We've
Thanks.
talked a lot about software, but there are also a lot of entry-level opportunities more on the hardware and the network side still too, or just doing repair for computers and copiers and printers and So I'm not sure if anybody out there is in an entry level or, did their A+ certification, but there's, at least in Richmond, there's several smaller IT companies that have openings right now, and they're typically your minimal entry is having that A+ certification. But if you have an IT associates too, that kind of translates well, depending on the coursework that you did. So I don't know if we'll see if you are in Richmond or not, but feel free to reach out to me directly if you are. I know of a couple of smaller places that are hiring right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah. Computers.
And Max Potential in Richmond is a great place to look at as well. They have a program where they bring on entry-level people and do have a mentorship program essentially as an apprenticeship for you to get your start in tech. So check them out. I'll put them in the link in the chat as well.
And I see KT put, I build gaming computers that may help. Absolutely. Put that in your resume under hobbies. I did get my A+ certification and my Net Plus certification, and they're not difficult certifications. The A+, if you have a good memory, the hardest part about that certification is learning the legacy systems and remembering them, because your brain is like, okay, why am I learning about this connector that we haven't used for 20 years? So that is a great entry-level cert to start with, and it's not difficult, and you will actually learn how to build computers if you have a good teacher. So yeah, if you do things on the side that are tech related, volunteer work, building your own computers, yeah, absolutely add those if you've got room.
Hi, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, my name is Yolanda Green. Like I have I don't have a background in tech, but I did do a boot camp program. I just graduated from that in April. My question is, I have do everything in LinkedIn, and I don't been through probably 12 interviews. I get a lot of recruiters in my inbox. I get a lot of recruiters that email me because I'm on Indeed. But when I get all the way up to the third interview, of course, I haven't landed a job yet. So I'm getting a lot of experience with that. But the question that they be asking is like when it comes down to research. So I do projects, I'm doing my portfolio, but what are some of the things I can do as far as improving my research? Because they do ask a lot of questions with what tools do you use to do your research? Are you good at researching for what particular project you're working in? And sometimes with boot camps, you do these projects and you really don't do a lot of research. You basically get the data set and, you go with SQL, Python, and you come up with, you Tableau and you do a presentation and all that, but actually getting into detail to find like marketing or even when you're trying to do business analysts, they want you to be able to know how to look at the market and, get figures and how you have to come up with a case study and so forth. Well, how can you start with that? What are some suggestions you can give me?
Yolanda, what is the boot camp? Is it a data? It sounds like a data analytics boot camp more,
Yeah.
or
Analytics, yes, ma'am.
data analytics? Okay.
My background is business, so I have a master in business administration, and I've been in management, and I came from a business role. So with communication, soft skills, interviewing, I have all that. I have no problem with doing behavioral interviews, and they really like me when it comes to the final technical part. Like the other candidate just happened to be, what they were looking for versus me.
So I think one thing you could do, if you don't know the answer to the interview question, tell them how you would find the answer. A lot of times that is more important than knowing the answer itself. I once had a professor tell me that my Google foo was strong. So
I Google everything.
There you go. There you go. There's no shame in it, but yeah, if a lot of times they're just looking for problem solving skills by asking some of those questions. So if you go, okay, I don't know this, but this is how I would find out. I think that'll get you a little further in the process.
Okay. Like, is there any, I guess one of my question is like, are there any, I know like, there's different websites and stuff you can use to do like research, like to find what's the GDP of this and so forth. Do you know when you're working on a project, you want to get more detail, dig deeper, I guess you could say. But most of the things cost money. And like, if you're not working for a company, you know, you have to pay some average like $700 and just to get, you know, statistics and things like that. So is there any other like free programs that might be out there that kind of help you do more research to make your project a lot better? Not really.
I think
I would just Google.
Google's the answer on both fronts.
Yeah, Yolanda, I think I'll just admit my inexperience in you know, with current data roles, but I have helped with hiring of several people recently that have gone through data boot camp. So that probably would give me a little bit more insight into how, you know, those programs are structured. And then if we could see like a job description that you're looking at, we could try to connect you maybe with some people that have successfully gone through that. I'm not sure if we have a lot of data representation here tonight, but I'm sure in other areas of Terazo, or Singleton, for instance, does have a data practice. So we could certainly reach out to our practice leads and get some insights from them and pass those on to you to help with that.
Okay, thank you so much. That'll work. But I'm out of Atlanta, so you know,
yeah, that's fine.
It's very competitive here, you know. So when you're applying for jobs, you're like in line, like 99 in the line of applicants. So, you know, if you don't get those first applicants in, it's like very hard to get. I've been doing very well. My resume is pretty good. I get invites. I mean, major companies like Delta Airlines and so forth, but it's just getting to that final, you know, phase. So
I would just say keep at it. You know, the more you do, the more you're going to get better at it. This is Lena. I had the same thing when entering the Linux RIM, and that's been over 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I was coming from the help desk level and I had no admin experience. And a lot of people, when you're new, they don't want you to touch their systems. They're kind of hesitant about it, you know, first, unless you can prove yourself. But it seems like you're going down the right path. So keep doing that, do the portfolio, start doing more projects. You know, if you can do stuff online, connect with groups too, like this one and other ones as well, because some places are actually looking for people at the entry level. So you just have to keep going at it until you get one, till you nail one. Because I would say for my first position, entry level at the Linux RIM, it probably took me a good 6 to 8 months to get it. So yeah. So, and I was putting in gobs. I didn't stop at like 1 or 2 or 3 and just wait. You have to keep going at it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like all those phone calls, you know, you were excellent candidate. You did everything right. And just that other person just had a little more experience than you have, so forth.
Mm-hmm. You know, and that happens sometimes, and that's okay. That means you know you're going in the right direction, you know. Right. So you are getting feedback. So that's important there. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it. This has been very helpful.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, Lena. Thank you, Yolanda. Yeah, we're a little over time, but there are some more questions in the chat. I would love to connect with those folks and try to respond back. If I can't find your emails, I will try my best, but you can also feel free to either drop the question in our meetup group. We have a Facebook group. Feel free to email me at brooke@womenwhocode.com, or any of the folks on this panel list, I'm sure would love to help you and send some resources your way. But I want to thank everyone. This was so insightful, even for myself, because, you know, yeah, once you get in here, you know, your career is your career. So these tips really are helpful at any stage of your career. But thank you all. Thank you all my panelists. Thank you, Cammie, Shelly, Archana, and Tammy. Thank you, my moderator, Alexis. Thank you, Maha, for setting this up as well. And for my people in the back, Ojel and Noel. Thank you so much for helping planning this event. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope everyone got a lot out of it. Please connect with these folks if you see them, if you haven't already. Add them on LinkedIn, say hello, great connecting with you. You know, LinkedIn's like my Facebook. It truly is like lifelong connections in your career. So I really have these, you know, someone you connect with today could be helping you 5 years from now. So thank you all. Everyone have a great night.
Bye.
Thank
you for the
you.
opportunity.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye. Good night.